Hello, everyone. So I have your astrological readings, the charts ready for July 1st through the 7th. But happy Canada Day, first of all, to all of my Canadian friends. And happy Independence, maybe. I don't know. 4th of July in the USA. So we have Neptune going retrograde Tuesday, and then we have a new moon in Cancer on Friday. So that'll be lovely. That part is lovely. Neptune retrograde in Pisces, I don't mind it, not at all. But anyway, let me just bring over my table and we'll go through the charts one day at a time. Okay, so before I get started with this, this week's, I just kind of have to recap a little bit about what's going on in the news because I'm uploading this on Thursday, the Thursday before, and it's the 27th, so we'll have the debates tonight. But what came through last night and early this morning have been some rulings from SCOTUS. So I guess we have Idaho being the case that was before the bench had to do with emergency abortions in Idaho. And so they're allowing that, but they're also sending it back to the states. So do they really give us anything or health care to women? Do they give us anything? I don't think so. Ketanji Brown Jackson said that it wasn't a victory, and she said something about it being a delay and said the court was dawdling. And meanwhile, pregnant people are kept in the dark, and their doctors are kept in the dark about what the law requires. So there's that. And then there's also, I guess this one's really awful. There was some case before them about, gifts and things, given to corporate CEOs, which whatever they ruled on that, of course, you can imagine would end up affecting them because it could be okay for them to now accept rewards. It's called rewards, whatever, I'm quoting here. But they're basically allowing bribes for corporate CEO, which, of course, that's going to set it up for their own rewards to be legal. So that's not good. And then there's also the other one that stuck out. There's a few more. You're probably going to want to go to maybe CNN or somewhere else, MSNBC. But the problem is you're going to have to go online and just find out what SCOTUS dropped, because the news coverage is focused so much on the debate tonight that you're not really going to get, and sliding under the radar, right? You're really not going to get everything that SCOTUS has ruled on, so you're going to have to look it up. If I were to sit here and talk about it, it would take a half an hour, and I'm just not going to do that because I don't know how many of you guys are interested. But the third thing that stuck out for me as a big sore thumb is that SCOTUS blocked Purdue Pharma's, there was a court case about settlements, for the families who were affected by the opioid crisis. So now, this is a win for the Sackler family, and it's a loss for the, they're just not taking it on, I guess, they blocked it somehow. I'm not sure about all the ramifications to that, but it sounded awful to me. So anyway, and now here we are this week, and I do love that it's Happy Canada Day on Monday, starting out. I clocked this chart at 9:19 a.m. So this is July 1st, Monday, 9:19 a.m. And I did it that way so that we can see this Moon-Mars conjunction here. The exact, within one, I guess I should have gone ahead one more degree. One more minute, and it probably would have been. No, actually, I would have to go back 1 minute. So we've got 16 degrees of Taurus and 26 and 27 minutes of the Moon and Mars. So bottom line, the Moon, just have to, let's wrap our brains around the Moon first. It's our most personal sense of self. It's connected to our ego. And a lot of astrologers use the sun as well, but no, I don't. The moon is the filter. It's your, I mean, your emotional reactions come from the moon. Also, once those are accomplished and cleared, then your pure flow of feelings come from the moon as well. It's the filter. Kind of like the way, if you just think of the endocrine system, and especially the liver and the kidneys as being filters for the body, the moon filters in everything that comes from the rest of the outer world, because it's our most personal sense of self. And our egos like a strong sense of self for safety and security. And the moon in Taurus is all about safety and security. So with Mars there, now Mars is the warrior. Mars will fight to get what it wants. And it really wants safety and security in Taurus. And they're both at this 16 degrees, which is more than halfway through that second decan of the sign where we're learning lessons. And Mars is hooking up, pretty soon it will be conjunct Uranus. Now that can be some explosive awakening or some explosive, actually Jupiter would have been explosive, but with Mars, it's more like just energy. And it can be explosive. Mars can be explosive, but Mars can also be just, that pure focus of strength sometimes. Like, with Taurus, it might be like to protect your money, to protect your kids, to protect any security, and to stand up for, whatever principles that you're faithful to. And to stand up for yourself if you've been, because the polar opposite is Scorpio. So if you've been cheated on or lied to and you've had it, this Mars, like if you have anything around these degrees, especially if you have anything at 16 degrees of Taurus or Scorpio over here, this could be a big breakthrough type of energy for you, but there could be some confrontation coming from the outside that would get that movement going. So the question is always, what do you want and what are you willing to fight for to get it? And hopefully it's what you're fighting for is legal and kind and true, right? But when it comes to greedy people, greed, because Taurus on the dark side can be greedy, Taurus on the dark side can be very possessive and wanting to deny what they have, to others. They don't. The Taurus on the darkest side is that hoarding kind of energy where they're like just a black hole where no light gets in, no light escapes. It's mine, mine, mine. Think of like the think of the seagulls in what was that movie, Finding Nemo, right? Mine, mine, mine. So yeah, and then it can just be this, no opportunities coming in or going out. It can be in evolutionary astrology. One of the things that Jeffrey Wolf Green called Pluto in Taurus, or Pluto in the second house, was kind of like the frog in the well. Like you can't see anything outside of this hole that you're in, but you don't dare move because you don't want any change to happen. Well, so I have a little sad story that I saw, but then again, it's like it's a part of nature, and I'm like, whoa. So I'm looking at this big bird out on the lawn. I have this little patch of lawn in the front. It's not very big, but I didn't put it in, and I have to take care of it, otherwise, or do something else. Anyway, that's another whole squirrel moment there, but I'm looking at this big bird. It was bigger than a pigeon, and I'm trying to figure out what kind of bird it is, and it's just sitting there, and it's not moving, and that's not usual. It's not normal. And so then all of a sudden, I noticed something, like flopping around under or around its foot, and I'm thinking, dude, what is this thing, half duck? Like, what is this? What kind of? I was just fascinated as to what kind of a bird it was, because I love birds. But then all of a sudden I realized, oh, because it starts to fly and it's got something big and heavy under it. And I'm like, oh man, I think that was a frog basking on my, moist lawn, I suppose. So, and then we do have like a irrigation. It's kind of like a little pond, about, I don't know, I might have it maybe 1,000 feet from me or so, and I hear frogs at night. So this is just this whole. I can understand why a frog would be afraid to move sometimes, right? Because if you've got a bird that's just going to come and get you and take you off like that, it's, yeah, like owls and rodents and all that stuff. I mean, but I didn't I didn't stop and Googled, do birds eat frogs? And sure enough, they do. A lot of them do. I mean, I know that storks eat snakes. So there's all this stuff in nature, which is, Taurus and Venus. And then here we are with Venus in in Cancer. So like nature was teaching me like safety and security, and here it is in the astrology as well. Of course, it's always the way it works. Just look to astrology, and the messages are always there. But seeing it ahead of time and trying to figure out what it's going to be, that's the tricky part. That's why I use cards. So anyway, the energy of Mars and Taurus, just to recap, the simple truth here is that fighting for what you want, fighting for what you want to hold on to, fighting against change, or if you're open to the laws of the universe and the cosmos and the way it works, we have these cosmic forces of cardinal fixed immutable energy in the zodiac, and the cardinal is like the expansive. It opens up to all the seasonings, right? So it's starting energy. So we have Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn starting off those seasons. Here's a little quickie astrology lesson for everyone, and it shouldn't take me more than a minute, but they start off the seasons and get things moving. And that's the expansive force in the cosmos. The universe is always expanding. The cosmos nothing stays still, right? Taurus wants to stay still. It's like, don't you push me. They don't like being pushed. They don't like being rushed. They don't, yeah. It's, so Mars and Taurus is going to be some fight against that. And then we have one of the other forces. We have expansion, but then we also have the fixed energy, which is contraction, right? And those are the signs that hold the middle part of the season and then create steadiness and stability and things that we can rely on. And they hold things for us. And there we have the Taurus. Taurus is fixed, right? So we have Taurus, and then Leo, and Scorpio, and Aquarius, which we now have Pluto in, holding the fixed forces. So we expand, we start things, we get things going, we're ambitious, we're driven, we're enthusiastic, and then we've got something. Like that bird had the frog, and it's like, oh, I'm not letting go of this thing. It's flopping around underneath me, but I'm holding on to it, right? Probably a bird with big talons, I imagine. But I'm telling you, the thing looked like a friggin' pigeon, so I don't know. It's like, what was that? Wasn't a raven, wasn't a hawk, wasn't I have no idea. It was gray. Might have been a small, but it was fat. It wasn't a heron. I know what herons look like. I've lived around herons. No, none of that. So anyway, then our third forces, we have the mutable signs. So the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces. And they hold the stasis. So we have the three forces in the universe are expansion, contraction, and stasis. And the mutable signs bring in the end of the season, right? Like Gemini brings in the end of spring, and then, of course, Cancer brings in the beginning of summer, which is the second, cardinal sign. And then we also have, with Virgo bringing in or it's ending the fall, and then Libra brings in or ending the summer, Virgo ends the summer, and then Libra brings in the fall, right? Sag ends the fall for us, or I'm sorry, the summer. No, wait. Yeah, fall. The beginning of winter is Capricorn, so we've got a long space in here, but it also goes with the 4 quadrants: the Aries through Cancer, the Cancer through Libra, the Libra to Capricorn, and then Pisces is like we make it all the way through the winter, and so there's that stasis in there. So the bottom line. The stasis energy is that's where we assimilate things. That's where we're adaptable. And, we don't have, just hold that in mind while, because we're going to have Neptune go retrograde, but while I do the rest of the charts, but hold in mind that we do have Saturn retrograde, and then it'll be Neptune. And so we do have one of the builders of the zodiac. Well, actually, we have 2. So with Jupiter and Gemini. So now this is interesting. I didn't think about this until I started talking. Jupiter and Saturn are the builders of the zodiac, right? Jupiter's in a mutable sign, and Saturn's in a mutable sign. So that's interesting. So we are, no matter what's going on, whether they're retrograde or direct, we are going through an assimilation period where we're having to adapt and be more flexible and to be more resourceful and versatile than ever. And that's going to somehow build our next experience. Okay? So summer cardinal energy, when the sun, and the beauty of astrology is the beauty of actually the way the universe is set up, we have all this cardinal energy in Cancer now, then also with Leo is going to fix it and hold it in place. All of the sensitivities, all of the growth that we focus on, all the with Cancer, and the best all the best forms of using that energy would bring through where we are integrating things that really matter to us. And it's helpful that we have this Taurian energy over here as well. And then Jupiter's helping us to learn. Jupiter and Gemini is helping us to learn, and it's still in that first decan. So we are developing some new foundations based on what we've learned. Now that, like with Scrotus, now that all these things have come out, we see where they stand, and they're kind of, I think one of the decisions was like a 5-4. I think that might have been in the Idaho abortion issue, emergency abortions. And some of the other ones, it was weird. I think Kavanaugh was against blocking the Purdue Pharma settlement. So that's interesting there. Like they're kind of they're adapting, they're assimilating, like they're being a little more resourceful and flexible and versatile than we would have thought, right? So it's interesting. But anyway, back to all this Cancer energy. This is about figuring out, we're learning, right? We're gathering information with Jupiter and Gemini. And then all this Cancer energy, and especially with Mercury in the last degree and a half of Cancer, we are getting really strong messages as to what is it that we really want to nurture? What do we want to grow? What really, Taurian energy over here, what really matters? How do we stabilize, and then how do we grow upon that stabilization that we have? Like you have the foundation of your house, now how do we build the rest of the house if it's something new? And with all this Aries energy over here, and the North Node in Aries, there are a lot of new things, and Chiron is really close to Eris, so we have the courage to start something new, start anew, start over if need be. So that is really interesting. Now let's see. I think I'll just focus on the little aspects here, and then I'll move on to the next day. So okay, we've got the little semi-sextile right here, the little blue, like sideways K, but it's up, so it's not an inconjunct. It's a semi-sextile right here. When those little puppies come in, that is helping us to build and manifest something. But it's the slow little gradual efforts where you just kind of plod along. And it's coming from right here. See how Eris? So there's that Eris and Aries, that courage and it's connected over here to Uranus, to bring through something new. This is inventive energy, but it's stabilizing something new. Because, here we are with Taurus, it's all about survival. So there could be some new or some refinements to vaccines, to the COVID vaccine, I think might be, they're talking, the last thing that I read about it was that this fall, I think it's September, we should be able to get, if you're able to get vaccines, if you didn't have any reactions, a COVID vaccine and a flu shot, and it would just be a yearly thing, just once a year. And we would never have to go through that every, 5-6 months that we've gone through before. So that's interesting. Now, also, here we have Uranus in this semi-square over to 25 to, it's over to the sun. So the sun in Cancer will show whether or not something is really safe. And once it is, if it's determined that it's safe and your sensitivities are in alignment, or if your body is more sensitive than ever, there's going to be some action that needs to be taken in order to wake up, because Taurus is so connected to the body as well. The moon, Mars, Uranus, all of this is very body oriented energy. It's about having and holding things that bring safety and security, so you an anchor into these opportunities that can come to you. But it's also about evaluating where your self-worth is sometimes. It can be a little self-eval, especially with Mars hooking up with Uranus. It's wait a minute. It can be those times where you have a conversation with somebody and they were so rude or so cruel or so whatever, or just off in some way or distorted. And you go into a little bit of a shock because you can't even... sometimes it's I don't even have anything to say back to that, because it would only be, hurtful, and I'm never going to do that. So, unless somebody's coming at you. Now that's a possibility. With Mars Uranus together, there can be some shocking, there can be a little bit of warring energy because somebody wants something, right? So, be careful, keep things locked up, keep yourself locked up at night, keep your alarm system on if you have one. Buy yourself a taser if you're a woman and you don't have one. Learn how to use things. If you're a young woman, get some martial arts training under your belt. Get a belt, in that if you want. Because being I don't know. I want to say forewarned, but it's not a warning when you go through all the physical actions. It's what to do if somebody's trying to, get you. Now, if they're just stealing something and you're not involved, you see them breaking in your car, let them have it, and then take care of it later. Don't confront. Always think smart. But there's these semi-squares here make me wonder about because there's action to protect, and nurture what you're trying to grow, but then could be some kind of like shocks in here. But this all, when I'm thinking about we're going to have the debate tonight. We're going to have more. They might take all the way through the beginning of July, but more drops from SCOTUS as to their rulings. We still don't have the friggin' immunity ruling yet. They are really giving Trump that one. They're delaying to the last minute with that one, like I knew they would. But I don't believe that they're going to give it to him, because for the reading that I did, I saw the coffin and the imprisonment card here. It's like, no, he was like blocked in, like they have to restrict him. But they're going to give him every friggin' day they can of delay. So they've already given him a huge win, because there's no way that these cases can go to get done or go through the trial process and be completed by November 5th. So there's that. Yeah, and then the last thing we have to talk about here, see how we have the South Node here at 11, and then we have the Moon and Mars together. Well, hold on. Let me check the let me check the grid over here. South Node, the semi-southern. Oh, it's to Uranus. Okay. All right. So it's this 25 degrees to the 11. Yeah, that's where it's not because it's a sesquisquadrant, so it's 135 degrees. Yeah, I'm not doing math. I'm looking at lines here. Anyway, this is a detour. This is disruptive energy to justice. And this is shocking because it's hitting Uranus. We want to be safe and secure, but we're waking up to the fact that there's only 3 on the bench that we're really safe with in SCOTUS, right? Kataji Brown Jackson, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan. And the other ones are dark and dirty and corrupt. So we're waking up to that, and I don't know what happens on Monday, but there's going to be some need to detour to, to do. I mean, when we have a square, we've got an obstacle, and it appears as a big challenge, but we have to make decisions and act. And we do learn to manifest and master, those types of situations. It does bring in more strength internally, because you find out who you are based on what you will stand up for or not. What will you fight against, or, you know what I mean? So it's never good to be apathetic. It's never good to be wimpy. It's never good to not take a stand. Unless it's something ridiculous like being in the middle of a war and you don't want to kill anybody, right? Like you don't sign up to be on, unless it's part of your path to be, to stand up like that. But nowadays we're smart enough to know that since World War II, and the problem is that we live and learn, and we realize that what we're getting ourselves involved with, if we sign up for the military, is that oftentimes we're protecting land rather than the people, and that's really sad. So how do you deal with that? How do you, these are all like Libra and Libra South Node. It's that type of energy. Like, how do you hold on to what really matters, which is relationship with your brothers and sisters, the law of brotherhood and sisterhood. And then Pluto is in Aquarius, no less, right? The sign of brotherhood and sisterhood. And it's hard. Sometimes you have to make those decisions to either back down or stand up, right? So it's sometimes heartbreaking. Life on Earth can be absolutely hard to be human, and it can be also very heartbreaking. But on a happy note, let's celebrate Canada Day. Let's give all of our brothers and sisters in Canada lots of love. Yay! Okay, let me move forward. Try not to be too much of a downer. So Neptune, so I'm Denise Downer instead of Debbie Downer. Remember that one? Rah, rah. Okay, 3:41 a.m. Pacific, Neptune stations retrograde. And you can see it here. It's not going to go back too far because, it moves very, very slow. Neptune stays in one sign for 14 years. And so and this is July 2nd, if you're tracking dates and times and all that. July 2nd, and Neptune is at 29 degrees, 55 minutes. It's almost, to that 0 degrees of Aries. There's no 30 degrees. This is the last. So here it is this anaretic degree at the nth minute. You know what I mean? Yeah, just about the nth minute. 29:59 would have been it. But anyway, this is why it's taking until 2025 for Neptune to make it into Aries. And there will still be a retrogradation after that as well. But anywho, so it will be, so it's at 29 degrees now, and it's going to, the planet doesn't go backwards. None of the planets go backwards. It's just in our relationship with it on Earth. It's because of our Earth movement and wobble and sometimes shifting on the pole. And oh my goodness, there's so much. And there was news about that today, but it won't, or news about that last week, but that doesn't really affect anything I'm going to read about today. So I won't go into it. You can look it up if you want. But anyway, so it's going to retrograde. It'll only go back to 27 degrees. And when planets retrograde, just think, usually there's a little RX, but in my program it just puts the degrees in red, and that gives more room for the visual of the signs and stuff. But anyway, just think in terms, retrogradation means that you get to something, revisit, reinvent, renew, re-experience is what really happens. And it takes you inside. Retrograde, like people that were born with a lot of retrograde planets, they're much more introverted and they're connected inside. They're amazing people. So, and we all have some, retrogradation. Usually, I've never done a chart that didn't have at least one retrograde planet. So, and the nodes, when the nodes are retrograde, it doesn't really mean anything because they travel backwards anyway, and there's that. Because they're connected to the nodal axis is connected to the moon. It's the nodal axis of the moon. So as Neptune is stationing retrograde today, July 2nd at 3:41 a.m., what is happening is that the moon has already crossed over both Mars and Uranus and is now at that 27 degrees of Taurus. And we've got the double sesquisquare to the south node coming off of Uranus and the moon. So we are wiser on some level. We have woken up to something that is going to shift. Now, on the personal level, this could cause detours and disruptions and problems in relationships. But this is also justice and fairness and equality. So we can expect something on Tuesday, and I don't know what it'll be, but there could be a drop of something from SCOTUS, I'm thinking. And I especially say that because notice how the sun is at 11 degrees of Cancer in this T-square to the south node and the north node. And the nodes, so south node represents the past, in Libra here, it's like putting Venus, because Venus rules Taurus and Libra, and we have all this Taurian energy here. So we could just say Venus is ruling this whole show right here. And Venus wants to bring through harmony. It wants to unite us. It wants us to make comparison values, and it wants to gratify something, right? It has to do with our self-worth, like I said, our values, our pleasures. It's related to everything feminine. And something's going to come through that we have to make a detour around, or maybe there's some I don't know, like a big protest of some type for that women are creating to show just how unfair this is, and when men and women, because this is terrible. It's terrible for the family when women aren't safe, when the most vulnerable part of our society, which is women and children and the elderly, if we don't have access to health care because the doctors don't know how to navigate around the legal system now, and they just up and go do something else as a doctor, because most doctors can, what is this creating? And it's already been 2 years since Roe v. Wade has been overturned, so we've already lost so many doctors. And this is shining a light on where we are now. Okay, so are we safe? Cancer wants safety. Cancer wants to create something to grow upon, which Taurus could have provided, but no, Taurus is being kind of upset over here, of course, because Taurus being ruled by Venus. Yeah. And when the whole thing happened, June 24th, 2022, we had the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio. So it was all about women's, Scorpio is very much, to do with women's reproductive systems. So there you are. Pluto rules Scorpio, so it was like we had Pluto over here and Venus over here. It was like Pluto-Venus kind of a battle, right? Now it's Aries survival, or like I'm here and I'm fight. This is Mars and Venus battle going on with with Mars being the ruler of Aries and Venus being the ruler of Libra. And we're trying to balance out this polarity. And today, on July 2nd, we have the sun shining a spotlight on something that needs to be looked at, because we know what's happened in the past and we know what we want for the future. And what are we going to do? This is cardinal energy that will put us into some type of an action. Remember the squares to the nodes, squares to anything, represent a tension field going on. And there's a lot of tense debate, when you're in a tension field, you don't feel safe. You're trying to figure out what's going on and what to do. It's an obstacle. You have to work. There's a challenge to act. There's a challenge to take some action. And today the sun is shining a spotlight on whatever it is. So I think it's going to have something to do with SCOTUS and the immunity, case with Trump and Roe v. Wade and all of that. And I wouldn't be surprised if, with all this Taurus energy over here, if there isn't some big battle brewing against SCOTUS. Yeah, and then we also have today, you can see we have Mercury is at 29 degrees 50 minutes, and Neptune is at 29 degrees 55 minutes. So Mercury is the messenger. It's going to be talking about safety, security, and growth. Cancer is the sign of the mother, the family, our roots, our past. And there's this flow of energy that will speak to that, and connected to Neptune. Some of it's going to be, even though it's a trine, it should be harmonious, but oftentimes the trines just bring through a really quick hit. And it could be a bunch of delusion. Somebody's trying to pull the wool over our eyes with, with Neptune. But Neptune also represents unity consciousness. Neptune also dissolves. So it could be dissolving. There's a part of Cancer in the dark side which can be very patriotic and traumatized in the past and fixated on survival and just in fear. So there's just like not really nurturing any opportunities because there's this selfish holding on, and it's like, me, I know the right way, and you know what I mean? There's that deluded, like, and this gullible, this Neptune energy over here, Neptune and Pisces can be super gullible. And they can also be very, victim oriented. Like they're the victim. They're being victimized. But then again, too, this could be messages about people who are being victimized, because, Scrotus right now is trying to victimize all women, or not all of Scrotus, but 6 of them. They're trying to hold us down. They won't let us take self-responsibility for our own healthcare choices. They want to insert themselves based on their religious, leanings. That doesn't have anything to do with our autonomy. Free will and autonomy rule, and free will and autonomy are encompassed in Aries. And Mars ruling Aries, Mars is in Taurus. And Mars at 17 degrees of Taurus is that we're learning that we have to fight, right? Yeah. I don't know about BC Boys fight for a right to party, but that popped into my head. That's just my own sick, twisted. Oh, goodness. Okay, so we've got a little semi-square going on here. From let's see, Mars to Venus. Yeah, that's not going to be too helpful there. Some action's going to need to be taken in order to unite the family, well, I guess you just go, you do you, right? You value yourself. You attend to your own self-worth, and you know who you are, and then, yeah. You can be independent. Uranus is all about independence. So independent unity with other females, with other family members, with the understanding that we don't grow as a society, and we just, if we don't grow as a society, it's not good. But there are so many different ways to grow. But if we're not protecting the most vulnerable, which are women and children, and the infant mortality rate and all of that is trashed. Elderly women that might need a hysterectomy, or any woman that might need a hysterectomy at any age. All childbearing women need to have that type of health care. And with Uranus over here in Taurus, this is independent decisions that could be made, especially with Mercury here in Cancer, and then Venus here trining Saturn. Okay, here's this, boy, man, something I think is going to come out. I definitely think something's going to come out on the 2nd from SCOTUS. But so, because SCOTUS would be ruled by Saturn, right? This is like the highest law in the land, the government. Saturn would be government. And to have Venus ruling, Venus in Cancer is all about, the female growth cycle, all the growth cycles, female mothering, female nurturing, or family nurturing. It doesn't have to be female, but bumping up against, there's a flow. So maybe there's some protection. Maybe they do come through, and I don't think so. It hasn't. I can't say that. I just can't say it based on what they've done already. They're allowing emergency abortions in Idaho, but they're sending it back to the states. So they're really just setting it all up for the states to handle it. And right now, I think there's 4 states that will allow a child to get pregnant even if they were raped. And they will make the child have a baby even if they were raped by their stepfather, father, whatever. You know what I mean? Uncle, brother, who knows? And then that person can have parental rights as well. So there's just so much right here about SCOTUS and healthcare. Now, personally, spiritually, it takes a different, if I look at just through that lens, it takes a different turn, and it's beautiful. It brings through, you know who you are and what you need. Real needs with these 3 planets in Cancer are on the table. And with 2 of the planets touching over to Saturn and Neptune, there are messages coming through from your spiritual foundation here with Saturn retrograde in Pisces. More messages and more communication with your guides, your guardian angels. And then in dream time, Neptune and Pisces will be very, very lovely for dream time. And with the retrogradation, that gives us more time with Neptune and Pisces. Neptune in Aries is a little more disconcerting to me, but I'm not going to talk about that till we get closer. But anyway, so for now, this is a really good time to shine a light on what it is that you want in your future. So if you're not looking and you're just listening, with the Sun square the North Node in Aries, this is cardinal energy. This is movement-oriented energy, and we are learning what we really, really want. And it's based off of our experiences in the past, because the Sun is also squaring the South Node. Excuse me. And, we've got relationships here, and then our own personal experience here. So there's that. So the light shining today on that it's a good thing. It's good to know. It's good to know where you stand in relationship. It's good to know where you want to go. It's good to know yourself. It's always good to know yourself, and that is one of the most beautiful things about astrology, is the excellent self. It's just such an excellent tool for self-discovery. Okay, so if I zoom in here, let's see if anything. Yeah, we've got the semi-square coming from. Let's see. This one's the Sun over to Uranus. Yeah, I talked about that. So that's something that we're waking up to. There's another one here. Jupiter is semi-squaring Chiron. So the more we learn about who we are and what we want, and the more we're learning from others as to like what's really going on within them, and there's a lot of communication that can be very healing. So we're developing foundations with Jupiter being in the first decan. We're developing foundations that we're learning from. Or we're developing new foundations within because of all the learning and the communication that we're going through. We're seeing both sides of a lot of different things. And there's healing. Jupiter always brings through expansion and healing. Unless it's just flat out arrogance and overconfidence and laziness, that can happen, and it can overlook details. Like you think you hear something or you thought you read something, but then you skipped a couple little words, just didn't come through, or the punctuation changed the meaning, something like that. We have to be careful with details, communicative details with Jupiter and Gemini. So we're going to learn lessons there. And with the semi-square here over to Chiron, we want to be careful not to use words that make, that hurt, that make people feel bad. Because most people are already feeling bad about themselves on some level for something. We tend to, as humans, have a propensity for making ourselves, going into duality and making ourselves bad or wrong if we if life isn't going the way that we want. And 50% of the time, it's normal for life to not go the way that we want. Right? It's always all of life is just such a power management issue, and there's that. So we have to be kind with each other and be careful and be helpful as much as we can. And we're all going to make mistakes and kind of flounder around. So maybe the Neptune retrogradation process will help us with that over the next several months. Neptune won't go direct until, I didn't name that before, I'm sorry, but Neptune will go direct on December 7th, 2024. But it'll take quite some time to get out of that retro shade. So let's just say it's kind of like the Neptune retrograde experience in Pisces all the way through to the beginning of next year. I think that's probably about right. So, yeah. Okay. Let's see, anything else? I see there's a semi-square here coming from the North Node. That one connects to the Moon, I think. Hold on, let's do this. Chiron to Jupiter. Okay, yeah. That's right. That is the one we have to be careful to be. I'll just go from this end. Rather than go back to the chart. This is the one where we need to be careful with our communication as we're learning and trying to understand. Everybody wants to be, it's a real need to be seen and heard and understood. So listening is a really, really good thing when any planet, especially Jupiter can bring through healing, through listening. But listening with Geminis can be, listening under the lens of Gemini is all about communication, but it can be challenging when it comes to actually listening. And you might listen in and you realize somebody's lying. Gemini on the dark side can be liars, like Trump. Trump is a pathological liar. And they can distort and confuse. And then there's these dualistic splits that are just so unresolved, and that's spewing out of them. And they can be really cold and very, cold-hearted, and you can't feel anything there. It's like they're frozen in time. Like you're trying to sense into, like, where are they coming from? What's going on? But it's frozen energy. It's like ice. And I've had those experiences so many times. But anyway, you just have to take a deep breath and let go and realize, oh, yeah, we're not connecting. It's not going to happen. And so there's this loss of opportunity, and they can really deceive themselves. So we want to, be careful with some people who are, if there's tons of Gemini and they're not healthy, they're not using it in a healthy way on the soul level. So, okay, so back to the the North Node. We have a semi-square coming from the Moon, so it might be a little confusing as to, well, actually, I think there's just going to need to be action. If you know what you want and you're willing to take the action. Now, this is a separating semi-square, so we've had it a little bit, but if you know what you want, that'll help you go in the direction you need to go. And then this other semi-square that's happening, well, I have a feeling with this one, because it's applying from Uranus, there can be something unpredictable, maybe a little exciting, some new awareness that comes in, and that helps you take the action that needs to be taken. Because with a semi-square, there's it's a 45-degree aspect, and there's sometimes indecision and friction where you need to take action. But then other times, especially with Uranus involved, like it's my aspect for, people's with transits and stuff, and I see that coming up. I wonder if there's like some on the job training or some new things that are being learned, and then from there it creates action later on. It can be something like that. So yeah, and then okay, so we got Chiron to Jupiter, Uranus to the Sun. This one's separating. Yeah, basically the spotlight will bring in freedom and independence if we're working it, and the healing to bring through your greatest gifts can be happening as well, and getting you on your path with the North Node. Let's bring it back to the wheel. So all of these semi-squares here, all of the little, this little aspect here, this little like kind of sideways V, these red lines, that brings through all these, it's friction, right? I mean, there's the action that needs to be taken, but it's up and we see it. It's not hidden. Let's see, and then we still have that little semi-sextile coming in here from Eris to Uranus. So wow, that courage to be free and safe. That's what's really on the table. Because you can't build, you need that safety in order to build, but again, if you really want freedom, you can't get it without taking self-responsibility for yourself and for those that you love too, and for your like your children and the future generations that will come. So, yeah. So Neptune stationing retrograde will bring through so many decisions that need to be made. And so that's a prediction there. And then with the Mars, Uranus, and the sesquisquadrate over to the South Node of the past, we know what has happened in the past. And now there's that fight. Mars getting closer and closer to Uranus. There's that fight for, literally, Mars fight for independence. Uranus independence, Mars the fight. The moon in Taurus is kicking something up there. Okay, Wednesday. Wednesday we have the moon on the other side. The moon's in Gemini now, and I clocked this one at 5 a.m. Okay, so July 3rd, Wednesday. This is the day before USA so-called Independence Day. I don't know if we can call ourselves independent right now. Well, in our consciousness and our decisions that we make, yeah, we're independent, but don't get pregnant. That's all I can say. Don't require a hysterectomy. Don't, you know what I mean? It's like we would have to take really good care of ourselves, but then life in a body is not easy, like I was saying before. So the moon having crossed over Jupiter, there could have been dreamtime guidance that came through. The moon is in a beautiful semi-sextile to the North Node. If you did get dreamtime guidance, it would be to help you in the future, to help you on your path, to help you be more independent. Aries is also about moving forward. It's about trusting your instincts. It's about being daring. It's about being trailblazing. It's about asserting yourself and your individuality. So yeah, so independence here, fighting for independence. Man, and then Chiron connect, right there with Eris. It's like, no, you are not going to take me out. I'll come back and get you. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, and then again, the little semi-sextile from Eris over to Uranus is there, but now we also have another one from the moon and the sun. Okay, so again, learning what we need to learn. The sun is shining a spotlight and giving us clues as to how do we manifest, how do we build, what are all those little daily? I think that there's guidance here. As just the sun is shining a spotlight to say, if you want a strong, nurturing experience in life, you have to learn to trust your intuition and continue to learn and discover self-discovery. And then also, because the moon is trining the south node, this would have to do with maybe a relationship issue or justice and fairness and equality issue, or both. And then because of the moon in the, notice how we have, let me do this so you can see a little better there. Okay, the sextile here from the north node to the moon is one leg of this aspect of the architect that connects to the south node. And the moon in Gemini is like at that focal point that can, like the handle of a bucket, So there's some, and the moon relates to women. It relates to everything that has to do with women, our psyche, body, and soul. That's what, male and female. There's a divine feminine within each man, and there's the divine masculine within each woman. So we really can't separate it. But the moon connects to our brain, our stomach, and our humanity as just an ordinary human being. So with that in mind, we are learning more and more. We're gathering information. We remember what, we can connect with the past, and we remember what happened there. And the sun is still in that T-square to the south, and the south node of the past, north node of the future, still shining a light on what's going on. And we're learning more and more and more. We're expanding our knowledge with our knowledge and our wisdom with, Jupiter's related to higher knowledge, higher wisdom, higher mind, higher learning. And Jupiter rules, hope, all of hope and faith. What do we have faith in? It basically comes back down to yourself. You have to have faith in yourself. You have to be optimistic and learn as much as you can about natural law, man-made laws, spiritual law. They often don't coincide, right? So there's all of that, and then there's also Venus is still in the trine to Saturn, but it's pretty much exact right there, 1919, right? Venus is just a few minutes or whatever, 25 minutes or so ahead. And yeah. But women here, the feminine here, the feminine here, the feminine here. Oh, goodness. And then the whole experience of being human held within Pisces. Yeah. So there's that. There's so much about the feminine experience and this connection to the government that shouldn't even be in there. But creating a strong, solid spiritual foundation for your future is what's really at task. Now, Venus is also related to our money. So saving money to be secure is a Venus in Cancer process, and especially with the connection to Saturn, maybe you're seeing the big picture because it's in Pisces, and maybe you're thinking about the things that you really want to build in your life, and so you don't mind saving some money for that. You're thinking along those terms, like what do I really want, and based on excuse me, whatever you really want. Maybe you'll take some money away from one thing, not spend it on one thing because you want it to go somewhere else, right? Yeah, so, and man, also with this opposition from, now Mercury, oh yeah, that's, I should have ran a separate chart on Mercury's ingress into Leo. Let me go back. Yeah, okay, let's do it this way. Well, let's clock it. Let's see. Oop, well, whoa, I got it. 0, 0. Okay, That happens July 2nd, Tuesday, July 2nd, 6 a.m. Okay, so now that Mercury's in Leo, now we're thinking and analyzing and connecting the dots and negotiating. Mercury rules negotiations. It's how we articulate our words. It's how we find the links and that create the patterns, and it's how we analyze information and rationalize things. It's our thought process, the way we speak, the way we write. Our creative self-expression is a part of Leo. The way we express ourselves is a part of Mercury. So combining these two together, well, this little bit of time here will be good for, will definitely be good for politics, or for the. Hopefully, it'll be good for Biden to help, because he's a Pluto and Leo soul, just like many of us are. But so as Mercury gets to the later degrees, yeah. Interesting. Okay. Mercury conjunct Pluto will bring in some powerful messages coming from him in this election cycle. That's excellent. Now, it'll hit Trump's ascendant at some point too, and his bloviating tendencies will definitely be out there. When it hits his ascendant and then his Mars in the first house, is like Mercury Mars with Trump. He'll be talking more crap than ever and spewing hate, and his hateful rhetoric will just be going nuts. So, but anyway, for us during this cycle of Mercury in Leo, we're going to be thinking about our creative self-expression. The beauty with Leo is to be in your leadership, but it's also playful energy. It's fixed fire, right? So it's movement, but it wants something, and it kind of wants, sometimes it can be my will and my way, so we have to be careful. It can be very, very warm. Leo energy can be very warm. And I'm very, very protective and very generous. Sometimes it can turn on the charm, so you might notice that with some people. It's like, what are you trying to get? Yeah, we still have the T-square going on there. But anyway, so just to clock it from Tuesday on, we're going to be thinking that way. So let's go back to where I was on Wednesday. Wednesday morning, 5 a.m., we have this opposition to Pluto. Mercury opposed Pluto. Power over here, the power of the people, but also people in power who don't care about people, opposing us thinking about, what do we want to protect? How do we be in our leadership and be protected and protect ourselves? Right? So there's a confrontation going on here with this opposition, and then what happens is that there can be a breakthrough. So yeah, and then we have is that I think that's, hold on, let me look at the grid real quick. Oops. Yeah, no, South Node to Uranus there. There's the opposition. There's the square to the nodes from the Sun. Then, and it's applying, I guess it's to Uranus. Yeah, it's down in that column. So right here in this the sesquisquare, whichever one you want to. No, why not just name it as one and stick with it? I'll just call it a sesquisquare. So it's our 135 degree aspect, and it's coming. It's something unpredictable, something a little shocking coming out about the past. And with Mercury and Leo, and it has to do with leadership and people who want to be in I'm going to predict that on this day, July 3rd, something really awful is going to come out about Trump. Or, it could be both, that something comes out, because we still have, the moon, I'm sorry, the sun here squaring the nodes. So that is bringing through something from the past, shining a light so that we're secure and safe, so that we know something. We can make those decisions based on what we want to grow in our lives. Something from the past could come out that changes our plans for the future. Okay? Now, add to that, Uranus over here possibly showing us something shocking. Uranus at 25 degrees, we're in that third decan, so we're deepening all the shocks that we've already seen. There are so many people in the government that we don't trust anymore, and because we know what they've been up to, and it's all because everything's coming out from the past, but we've been sitting in it for quite some time. So something could come out about Trump, and also another possibility is that some diluted, like deep fake kind of things, or there could be some information, because remember, Gemini and the moon here, the moon is the public. The moon will be expanding their knowledge, their learning will be expanded as to, and the moon is at that hinge point, again, remember the aspect of the architect, as to what will they do in the future. They're learning something, we're learning something, and it will change, it can shift the opportunities of the future based on the information that comes out. And the information could be diluted and full of lies, but at least we know it. Because this little sojourn we have to remember that Neptune, both Neptune and Pisces, rules film and photograph and images and things like that, the things that we see, and also the things that we don't see. So it can be very, we have to be careful when it comes to Neptune. It can be diluted, it can be confusing and distorted, and it's trying to deceive. It can be that. So you have to trust your spiritual spidey sense, I mean, that's the thing. Once you're tuned into who you are, once you've done enough work to discover who you are, and you keep setting your intention, every time you set in an intention, spiritual energy wraps around that intention, and it will take you where you want to go if you stick with it. And if you want the truth, if you want the real truth, then you'll start getting guidance like, okay, look here. Or things will pop up. You'd be surprised like what can pop up into your feed online. And I swear the angels and guides, they're working in the back. Now, I can do really well when with apps and things like that on my phone to, with guidance. I'm just tooling around without doing cards just because I'm busy or whatever. But if I have my phone plugged in charging, I can't get can't get guidance that way with that through the apps. So yeah, I wouldn't have a direct like current going into anything. But I don't think your guides can get through when there's like so much electricity, being into the device. But if it's not unplugged and you're just looking and something comes up into your feed on social media, well, if you're on Facebook or X or even Threads or any of them where they allow, on anything that allows a lot of ads, you have to be careful. You always have to be careful. But away from the ads, of course, that's where you're going to see the deep fakes is in the ads. That's where you're going to see the lies, so you're going to have to discern. Right? I wish we had something. Well, it's not too long. Let's see. Next week we'll have the moon in Virgo, so that'll be helpful. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and go to Thursday. So Thursday, it's so-called Independence Day, in the USA. And I clocked this chart at 5 a.m., so I'll look at it real quick. But then I want to check out 1:51 p.m. as well, because that's when the moon will move into Cancer, which can be sometimes ridiculously patriotic and kind of stuck. So in the morning, all systems are go. Doesn't look to me like there's really anything to be concerned with. We still have Uranus, throwing up some information and shocks from the past. Okay, as I already addressed that aspect there, the sesquisquadrant or sesquisquare, but also we have Saturn in the sextile to Mars here, or Mars has moved enough to where now there's a sextile to Saturn. So fighting, movement, energy, going after what you want in order to feel safe and be in adherence to your principles. And there are opportunities to create something solid or to lay further, deepen the foundation. And Mars is almost at that third decan. It just has to go one more degree. It just has to get to about 1.5 degrees, and it'll be in that third decan where something is deepening. So this is an opportunity this morning to deepen, to work hard, to fight for what you really, not fighting energy, but movement towards what you really want. And then the moon is at 25 degrees Gemini, so it is sextile exactly Eris. So there again is the fighting energy to blaze your own trail and learn as you go. But now that the moon is at 25 degrees of Gemini, we're also in that process of deepening and blossoming because we've learned something new. Yeah. And then, you can see the little, you can still see the moon there. We've got the 25-degree moon. So there's a manifestation, a gradual manifestation there, that there can be some aha psychic hits that come through, some psychic moments and aha, I get it, connecting the dots there. So there's support. There's a lot of support there. And then also from Eris. Okay, so to bring in the simple truth with that one, or the simple message would be that you can trust your psychic abilities. You can, if you've been working hard, you're going to, on your personal path and your personal growth. This will be a good day for you to get the messages that you want, to further strengthen everything that you've been working on. So that's actually really good. And then we do have the little semi-square coming in here. Hold on. Let's do this. Chiron to Jupiter. Yeah. You're going to get hits. I think a lot of people are going to get psychic hits or get the information. It's going to come to you somehow. Like I was saying, just might pop up in your feed, or you will have an instinctual, because with Chiron and Aries, it can be an instinctual hunt to search for something online. It's possible, or ask someone that knows, that you trust, and you get a piece of information, because remember, Jupiter's in Gemini, that gives you what you need in order to act. It's like, oh, now I've got that information. Now I know what to do. And then also there's the one coming from the North Node, or Uranus to the North Node. So again, because Uranus can be just that psychic hit that comes through, and perfect. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to the wheel, and let me go ahead and move. Let's see, let's do it this way. Oh, I have to get all the way to 151. One. There, that's 2. And you can see that the moon's in Cancer, but it did happen actually at 151. So be careful 4th of July. People are, well, it's good for families, it's good for gatherings, it's good for celebrating, I suppose, it is, but But the moon is squaring Neptune. There's going to be some diluted, well, some people that are very gullible and they are in a cult are going to probably bump up against some other people that want to be safe and secure. So I don't know. I'm never one for going out on, to celebrate. And I mean, watching, unless you can put yourself in a safe place to watch, fireworks, that's cool. If you want to do, because it's a day off, if you want to do picnics and stuff like that, Cancer's all about food, so that'll be good. But maybe do it as early as possible, maybe a picnic brunch, and get it over with before 1:51 p.m. I don't know. Depends on what time zone you're in, too, because this, of course, would be 4:51 p.m. in Eastern. But for the evening, I don't know. Just be careful. I'm always like, the safety first mom over here. With Mercury in the sesquisquare, so we still have the Uranus with the sesquisquare here to the south node. So there again, there's going to be some something to get around, some detour that needs to get around. Uranus is disruption energy, and this aspect is disruption, but it's disruption to the past. It's disruptive to relationships of the past. It's disruptive to justice and fairness and equality. Okay? So politically, that's what we've got going on all week. Personally, we might have some disruptions in relationship that just kind of like, okay, I don't know what to do about this right now, but for sure there's a detour away from that problem. Same thing going on with Mercury to Saturn. And again, Mercury and Leo, it's the my will, my way kind of a thing. Well, that's not going to work with most people. It's not going to work with people who are fighting for their security, for, their healthcare options and rights and their autonomy. So Saturn government over here wanting to victimize, Saturn Scrotus over here wanting to victimize. I don't know. We're going to be talking about that, right? We're going to be asserting our it can be kind of rebellion, right? Rebellious. Both Leo and Aquarius can be rebellious, and it can be a good rebellion. There is healthy rebellion, as long as you're not hurting someone or yourself. So yeah, and then let's see. I think that's it. Yeah, we've done it. Friday, we have the Cancer new moon. That happens now. I ran this chart for 5 a.m. So this is Friday, July 5th. The new moon happens at 3:57 p.m. and I'll forward it through a bit in the morning. I just wanted you to see how close the moon is to the sun. The sun is directly opposing Ceres. Okay, now Cancer to Capricorn. We've got the polarity of home and hearth, and then work, home and family and career. We're with Ceres in Capricorn, of course, and it's retrograde. And I've talked a lot about this in the past. It's always about protectiveness and what we want to protect. Both of these signs are protective naturally, right? Cancer has family, or has, whether or not it has actual family, we can see our brothers and sisters as being extended family. Cancer is also very protective because they understand vulnerability, and with Capricorn, so it's like you just think about a crab. This would be the inner part of the crab, and this would be the outer part of the crab. But I know Capricorn is supposed to be like the sea goat or a mountain goat. I don't know. Take your pick. It's both cardinal energy. This energy, Cancer energy, moves inwardly, and I'm prefacing everything as to what the new moon will be about as well. Cancer tends to bring the energy in, and we're feeling, and it's subjective, right? But we're trying to integrate opportunities to create more security. And so we will build foundations. This would be the Capricorn side of it with Ceres. We will build foundations of strength. And so there's a light being shown, a light shining on that particular aspect. And then Venus in the third decan of Cancer is very helpful with that as well. This Venus wants in Cancer safety and security, as well as Mars over here in Taurus, willing to fight for it. And then we've got between the Moon and Jupiter, we've got this little manifesting aspect going on here with the semi-sextile. And the other one from, of course, Uranus to Eris, again, that fighting for it, like I spoke to before. Mars is exactly sextile Saturn, fighting for stability and strength so that we can be in more bliss in Pisces. But then opportunities to see people who are gullible and who are victimizing themselves and are playing the victim, and their energy's all over the place and they won't take self-responsibility. Now there's an opportunity to take responsibility if they'll do it, if they want the truth. So anyway, let's see what else. Yeah, I think I already spoke up about the Mercury to Saturn, the detour around. How do you find a workaround, when you've got a corrupt scrotus going on? Yeah, the other aspects I've spoken about so much. I would just be repeating myself, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. Now let's go to the new moon. Let's just make it 4, but it actually happened at 3:57. But you can see that the moon and the sun are conjunct. That's what a new moon is. So now we have more than the sun opposing Ceres. We have the moon involved. So the sun and the moon together, those two luminaries of the universe there, are tightly in alignment with again what preserves safety and security and the family, and what do you want to preserve? What do you want to grow? Cancer's all about growth. And then Ceres is wanting to protect. So what do you want to grow and protect? And there can be breakthroughs. This new moon can bring through breakthroughs that helps us to understand what that is. Now, Ceres is related to all things such as food. Cancer's over here, that's the sign of food. Well, so is Taurus as well. But with Ceres, this can be guidances to your maternal imprint and understanding. Maybe if you've had issues with food, like overeating or undereating, anything like that, you might have guidance to help you understand that and work yourself out. There could be a breakthrough there, is what I'm saying. But it really, understanding the environment that we grew up in is also, that's a Ceres function in our charts. Wherever Ceres is in your natal chart will give you clues there. The house it's in, the sign it's in, the house it's in, and the aspects to it. But also, Ceres has to do with the transitions that women go through with our reproductive system, and with this protective energy here, I'm wondering what this new moon could set off something really beautiful that could prove to be very, very protective in the future. And then we have Mercury over here. No, I'm sorry. It's Venus over here squaring Chiron exact, pretty much about a degree apart. So again, protecting the feminine and willing to fight for it. Finding your deeper gift of strength that you didn't even know was there. That's the thing, is life will tend to kind of initiate what is within us that needs to come out and stand up for ourselves, or stand up for whatever it is. And protecting the family, male or female, everybody wants to protect their children and their family, I would think. Or protect the inner child, which also relates to nurture and protect the inner child, which also relates to Mercury and Leo. It relates to Leo. Leo can be the sign of the child, but also Cancer, children. Yeah. Okay, so remember, now this is Friday. I should have said this earlier, but maybe I'll put it in the title. New moons are always the days leading up, the whole week leading up to a new moon, that's when you want to set your intentions. Because sometimes you set your intentions and it's not, unless you want to intend to receive something that you don't even have to work for, you can do that. But if you want to, when it comes to setting intentions, it all depends on what you really want. You have to get in touch with what you really want, first of all. And if you don't know what you really want, you can have your intention to figure out. You can say, I intend to know what I really want. I intend to be inspired. I intend to whatever, blah, blah, blah. So there's that. And then the other thing is that with intentions, they can be sometimes, when it comes around to the full moon, they can be released and you'll have that experience. Now, the next full moon will be in Capricorn. We get 2 full moons in Capricorns this cycle. The first one, of course, was June 21st. The next full moon will be July 21st, and it'll be at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So right there at that anaretic degree. So Capricorn, Capricorn full moon should be pretty good with manifesting as well, because Capricorn is the sign of manifesting onto the earthly plane. But yeah, so the other aspects with the new moon are the same as, earlier in the week, where we have the Uranus, the something related to independence and awakening and inventing and liberation from the past, possibly, but you're going to have to do that work yourself. Unless maybe that's the intention. Maybe it's to understand what you need to do, which way to go, because this aspect here, this sesquisquadrate, it has to do with a detour and a disruption. But once if something's been disruptive, you have to figure out what to do, which way to go. And if you have to make a detour, you need to know which way to go. And there's a connection to the past there. So maybe it's just that we're being disrupted from the past, and maybe that's a good thing, right? Maybe we can have some freedom from the past. Maybe that's the intention. Maybe the best intention would be for security and to be free from the past, whatever that means for you. Yeah, and then with Mars sextiling Saturn still, this is really good for moving forward, going for what you want, more safety, security, stability. Mars in Taurus, and almost just needs another half a degree to get into that third decan. We've been learning lessons. I think we know what we want at this point. And we're willing to work for it, lay that foundation, and there's opportunities coming in to do that. Yeah. Let's see. Venus squaring Chiron. If any old wounding comes up, look for the gift. Okay? If you have any wounding coming up around being a mom, from your mom, wounding that feels very challenging to be a vulnerable woman, also look for the gifts. Because if you go through the experiences of being vulnerable, you really do understand what vulnerability is, and that can be in turn how you learn how to protect yourself in the future and how you learn how to protect others. Vulnerability is not a bad thing at all. It means that we learn healthy boundaries, we learn our sensitivities, we learn how sensitive we are, and that's a very Cancerian trait there. So, yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and go to Saturday. Saturday, July 6th. The sun is exactly opposing Ceres, like it was yesterday, right? The moon has moved a little bit forward, so it's not an orb anymore. It's, well, separating, but it's still there. Yeah, let's see. Venus is still squaring Chiron. Okay, so that's the same as, the vulnerable place. If you can find your gift of asserting yourself, and I guess if you're feeling very, very vulnerable, you will understand how important it is to be vulnerable. Let's say you're in a marriage or a partnership or a relationship where somebody is really controlling and you don't like it anymore and you want to be free. Well, then you will learn the lesson as to, and this will be true for many women out there who are breaking away from the whole Trump GOP baloney, that things will be coming out. I think probably because of the debate, a lot of things will be coming out about Trump that people won't like witnessing, and from there they're going to make different decisions, and they don't want to put themselves in a place where they could be vulnerable. If you're going to trust Trump for safety, I mean, if you're thinking about safety, look, this is just perfect with the way the astrology is, the way the universe is moving now. The issues of safety and security are at a fever pitch. And if you want to be safe and secure, are you going to pick Biden or are you going to pick Trump? Does Trump seem like a safe guy? If you think Trump brings through any amount of safety, you need your head examined. You need your whole emotional body is just not even functioning. Your being is diluted, or your mind is diluted, and your being is probably going to be rebelling against that inside and trying to help you wake up. That must be why we have Uranus in this sesquisquadrate to the south node of the past, right? What else could that be about on the political level? Yeah. So Saturday, again, there's going to be a shining light on, are we safe or are we secure? And if not, what do we do? Ceres can create grief and separation. So there can be some grief and separation from what we thought we were safe with. If you're, like, let's say you're a Trumpite, and things can shift, breakthroughs can happen, things can change. So let's go to Sunday. Sunday we have the moon. The moon and Mercury are really tight already in the morning at 5 a.m. So now people are talking about it. There's a lot of self-expression and maybe a lot of creativity that's coming through. But by 1:23 p.m., the moon and Mercury will be exact. So right now, from the morning time, we have the Venus is still squaring Chiron, and we would have a double square going on as well. That'll be apparent that'll be apparent next week on July 8th in the morning. But for now, you can see it's already there. Venus is squaring Chiron and has been squaring Chiron and Eris. So Eris is bringing through that courage. Okay, women aren't taking it anymore. Jupiter is sextiling the North Node, so we're still learning, but we're moving. We're getting ready to move into the learning even more stage, so that we can develop a stronger foundation for the future. And there's opportunities galore for that, and also maybe connecting with people in the past. Maybe there's a more joining of forces socially, social media, relationships, fairness, justice, equality. Jupiter healing that issue, hopefully. Jupiter ruling the courts. Jupiter rules the ninth house, and the ninth house is the courts of law house. So yeah, SCOTUS is here too. Now, they're probably on vacation by then. We'll see. We don't know. But yeah, they take a break until October something. They have quite the time off in the summer. Not just a little 2 or 3 week thing. They've got months. Anyway, Jupiter's in this semi-square here on both sides, actually. So to Venus, and then over to Chiron. Wow. Yeah, there's going to be some lessons learned that will be, well, the information is out there. That's the thing. The information, the truth is always out there. It's up to us to find it. But something's going to come up that makes us want to look for it, especially us women. That's my prediction there. And then especially because the moon and Mercury, the moon is going, so the moon rules our brain and our stomach, and we want security because it's our most, like personal sense of ourself, and we need to have a strong sense of self for our safety and security. So now there's courage to go after all that, especially with the moon having hooked up with, the sun, and now it's hooking up with Mercury. Now it's like, how do we nurture ourselves, and how do we nurture others as well? Like, the moon is all about, like, where's our comfort zone? Where is our emotional security? What is your comfort zone? We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be sharing about that, with Leo. We're going to be sharing. And, it's coming from the heart with Leo. We're in that heart zone. We're also in, it's a sign of, like, finding your identity. So, yeah. So our Pluto and Leo generation has to do with the soul finding its security, their real self within, and then expressing and sharing that outwardly. Now, not all souls with Pluto and Leo are going to accomplish that in one lifetime. Obviously, Donald John Trump has not made any headway in that department. And so, again, here's another prediction, is that he in this lifetime is going to have to experience so much humiliation to try and get his soul to breathe and heal somewhat. Right now it's shrouded in just crusty darkness. It's not like a soul, it's like coal over his soul. So anyway, for us though, we have this wonderful opportunity, especially coming in about 1:23 p.m., to really share from the heart, and to really express ourselves and witness also. Leo is beautiful witnessing energy. We absolutely love seeing people be real, being their real selves. Now, when they're spewing hatred, that's not the real self. That's a overlay of the ego. It's not really who they are. It's who they are not, and they're just stuck. So, but anyway, so as, like, pretend that the moon was conjunct Mercury and it was in Capricorn. That would be like, well, actually, in any sign, the moon can rule like all those hunches that we get, those deep feelings in our bones and our intuition. But with Leo, it's going to be third chakra and heart, solar plexus kind of energy, right? Like all of that, like that radiating. Oh, because you said that, I really understand something. It can be like that, or you see this little kid just, I'll never forget years ago, this little toddler in a stroller passing by when I was walking, looked up at me in a certain way that it's like I knew he really saw me. Like, wow, I saw him. We had a moment. And it was great. So yeah, things like that. But it can be with the moon, ruling the things that can be kind of very soulful, and it's always changing. Heart connections can be very changing today. You could have experiences of feeling changed by a heart connection. That is very possible today, and especially later on in the afternoon. Let's just work it all day. So yeah. So the only other thing I want to say, even though it doesn't have anything to do with the aspects here, because I think I've already covered everything, but just to close up with a little more information here with Saturn, Neptune. Now, I realize that almost 10 degrees apart, but it's still within orb, and they're both within the same sign. So Saturn and Neptune, we have to be careful. And what we could do, to be productive this week, is to just send prayers and affirmations out that all people will wake up and understand that we need to be compassionate and caring and sensitive with each other. So that we can keep putting that light out there. Because the people who are being corrupted by government officials, people are gullible sometimes or vulnerable to corrupt governments who gaslight them. There are people out there with very vulnerable minds who can get sucked into like this cultish vacuum where they get even more victimized, and they don't realize that they're voting against their own self-interest. What they're really locked into is a vicious circle of hatred and fear. Right? That's how it works. That they try to control us through fear, and they really hate us. Right? Like these government officials, like Samuel Alito really hates women. But then his wife is, she's the whole patriotic, let's all this other crap that's going on. So ending the week with the moon in Leo, conjunct Mercury, no less, or beginning the next week, I should say, because Sunday is really the first day of the week. Or maybe it's the end, I don't know. What we have going on with all that Leo energy can be that the light is just shining really brightly to burst through, to break through, to get off of this other, and to really understand that, Trump he's really painting himself into a corner. He's painting himself as a victim so that he can grift off of his base. But the position that puts him in, because at some point his people aren't going to have money to throw at him, but what's happening is that he's funneling, I'm sure he's funneling money in through all these super PACs that are secret and closed off as far as their identity. And then he's also getting money that's being laundered. And all that's going to come out someday. With Saturn in Saturn in Pisces, it's like Saturn is testing. They're testing reality, right? They're testing a fascist, autocratic reality. And, my gosh, to take that energy that can be so beautiful and so spiritual and so freeing and end all of these karmic cycles, to take that and use it against the public is just unconscionable to me. But That's how some people some people just need to go through it, I guess. But I do believe, I'll just end, I know I said I was ending, but I'll end with this. I do believe that there are so many more of us who are wise and compassionate and sensitive and understanding as to the way the universe works. And the more you know yourself, the more you can understand others, and we can all understand the universe together that way. So yeah. So, okay, I'm going to close this up, and as always, send you big hugs. Take good care. Let me know how you're doing. Bye.